Hello everyone, my name is Chris McIntosh. I work with a number of graduate students on writing, so I wanted to make this video to go over some writing resources. I actually keep this page on a GitHub repository, so it's something that I can update as I run across new material that seems useful, and I only have a central place that I need to update and not multiple versions across different areas. This page is available online. This is the address. This is a GitHub repository. If you don't know what that is, that doesn't matter because you can see this page anyway. Just go to this address that shows up here in the window. So I'll start off by just giving an example of how I usually review writing. I do a lot of back and forth with students where I'll look at drafts of paper and send them feedback and they correct it and then send me another draft. So I kind of have a system that I typically will use that just helps me review things more quickly. I usually recommend that students leave the highlighting in place, and as they address issues, then we'll remove it. But when I've marked something up, the green parts, I would leave that intact, and then I know I've reviewed it already. Unless you change something, then we'll just take the highlighting off and I can look at it again and see if I think it's okay. And that helps me review revisions of papers a lot more quickly and get things turned around. So here's the things I typically look for when I'm looking at student writing. Most of the papers we work on have particular sections and there's content that goes in those sections, so I'll look to see if the section content is appropriate and complete. Most of our writing is academic in nature, and so you're going to be citing sources, so I'm looking to see that you're correctly using citations and references when summarizing, paraphrasing, or quoting sources. I work in nursing, so we use APA as our standard. So I'm looking for spelling, grammar, headings, citation formatting, reference formatting, and figures, tables, and appendices are correctly formatted and in the right places. And then I'm also looking for logic and flow, things like well-formed paragraphs, topic sentences, suitable transitions, logical arrangement, and clearly written sentences. So I kind of use some highlighting that I typically use. If something's in green, I think it looks good. If something is in yellow, I think there's a problem, and I'll usually create a note to tell you what the problem is that I think needs to be addressed. Here's an example paragraph that I will mark things up. I'll typically look for a topic sentence, and I'll usually highlight that in light gray. And then I'll look to see do all the sentences in the paragraph support that topic sentence. If I like it, I'll mark the first word in green. If I think there's an issue, I'll mark the first word in yellow and create a note. And this just helps me to understand it. We'll talk a little bit more in a minute about what this is and why I do it this way. I typically work in Word, so I'll use track changes. I've provided a link here for how to use track changes in Word to accept changes that I proposed. So I suggest you go read that and learn how to use track changes. I also put another link here for using comments in Word, how to add them and reply to them and delete them, because I will use those to tell you what I think needs to be changed about a section. So I have some general suggestions on improving writing that I like all of my students to look at. At the U of U where I teach, all graduate students have access to Grammarly. I suggest you get it and install it. There's a link to instructions on how to do that. ChatGPT has become more popular, and I think that there are some great uses for helping us to improve our writing. So I've given you a link of both to ChatGPT and some examples I've tried. Click on the link and you can see I've left instructions of the things that I've tried in using it for some editing exercises. I think it has a lot of potential to really help a lot of people with their writing. At the University of Utah, we do have a graduate student writing center. There's a link to that resource. And just in general, writing is an iterative process. Be prepared to complete your assignments, receive feedback, and then incorporate feedback into revisions. And I think this is a good general process to follow some steps, find relevant content, group it into logical categories, which is usually defined by the template of the paper we're writing, order that content in each section in a logical sequence, write a rough draft, and then you can work on some flow and logic. And after you've got the flow and logic worked out, then you can edit for specific publication requirements, length and style and things like that. I've collected some resources on paragraphs. Paragraphs are pretty kind of the backbone of our paper. So I suggest you go through and read through each of the things that I've selected here. I've got links to a couple external articles, and I would just go read those entire articles because they're going to give you some good information on how to write good paragraphs. And I've quoted a couple sections in a couple other resources that I found particularly useful. So read through these quotes, and they expand a little bit on some additional information. So one exercise that I like a lot is called reverse outlining, and you basically highlight the topic sentence of every paragraph and then follow that through your paper to see that should be hitting the main points, and are those arranged in a logical order. And I've got a couple links to a couple articles on reverse outlining. And I like to leave those topic sentence highlights in place through all the revisions of your paper, and then we remove the highlighting at the end when we're finalizing the paper to turn it in, because it just helps identify quickly the main organization of your paper. You can't really talk about paragraphs without talking about sentences, so I have some links to some nice articles about improving sentences. And again, if you go to my example link above with some chat GPT things I've tried, it's as simple as going to chat GPT and putting in the prompt, improve this sentence, and paste your sentence in, and it will often give you a really nice suggestion of how maybe you could make that sentence bigger. So take advantage of that free resource. I've got a couple links to a couple articles on professional voice. Most of the writing that I do with students is all academic and scholarly writing, so we're not writing, popular media things, and you want to use your wording and style appropriately for the genre that we're writing in. So those are some nice examples of things you can look at and consider. We work with a lot of citations and references and evidence in our writing. So here's the things that I think are useful. If you're doing a big project with a lot of references, then I suggest a citation manager like EndNote, and there's other free ones available, but students at the U of U get that for fairly inexpensively. So there's a link to the Office of Software Licensing. And then you need to come up with a way to track notes. I probably need to update this a little bit. I've tried Miro for keeping some notes, and that's okay. I also like to keep notes in an Excel spreadsheet, which I can sort, and maybe I'll make another video and add it to this sometime when I get a chance. But come up with a way to keep notes about your sources and what you're writing. It will make things a lot easier. And we do use APA in nursing. The current version as of the time I'm making this video is APA 7. I do suggest everybody that's doing writing in nursing in graduate school purchase an APA manual. It's not that expensive. But if you don't have a manual yet, or you don't have your manual with you, the APA Style blog is a great resource and shows you a lot of the most common formatting things that will come up during your writing. So there's a link to that website. It's a good resource, and often if you just Google APA and whatever thing you're looking at, it could be references or print references or headings or something like that. Very often one of the first links is going to be to something in this APA Style blog, so use that resource. I did add a couple links and information here about genre. A genre is a set of forms or standards expected by a community, and in our writing, the genre we focus on in much of academic writing is a research report with 5 sections: introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. A lot of the writing I work on with students right now is more specifically in quality improvement, and so we use the Squire 2.0 guidelines. I've got that reference right there, and that follows an even a bit more specialized format called IMRAD, stands for Introduction, Methods, Results, and Discussion. So there is a link to the Squire statement there, and that's a little more specific on a lot of the papers that I help students with right now. I did find a couple nice articles about publishing quality improvement work, so those are right there, and these are all the references for the sources that I cited. So if you're working with me on writing, I suggest you go through and look at all of these links and read them through. It's going to help you be a better writer, and it's going to help you know a little more of what I'm looking for as we review writing together and work on drafts. I hope this is helpful, and good luck in your writing.